Didn't have to touch the bone didn't come back, but her tissue was just creaking. And she had a little bit of a short upper lip, and her proportions were better, but we probably had a millimeter or two creeping down. And so when you look back on where she was and where she is now, we're just sort of concerned. So here we are, 31 now, out of dental school, and she's crept again. So my periodontist that I've worked with forever has retired, and I had lunch with him and talked to him about it, because one of the things we were concerned about was, does she have a longer than normal biologic lip? Like, is it 5.5 millimeters? Do we need to take more bone? We didn't love that idea, because then you start losing some support. And then he said to me, he goes, well, John, when you're doing a ponic or where you're doing an implant crown, we can influence where that tissue is based if it's really flat, it'll creep down. If you make more convexity, it'll creep up. And like, that's true. I go, what are you getting at? Because, well, what I remember about her teeth is her teeth are really flat. And there wasn't a lot of a bump at the CJ. And he said, what I would try is, he said, why don't you do the gingivectomy with your laser and bring it up like 1.5 millimeters. And then if you do a no prep or very minimal prep veneer, I would put a margin there and increase the convexity and see if the tissue stayed in. Worst case scenario is you start getting some red, like a little biologic, like width. We can go intrasulcularly and just move the bone up with a wheel staff. We're still do some things. So talk to Caitlin, and that's really the plan. That was the plan moving forward. And so I just want you to take you through this case. So we're going to start with the photographs. Again, she is really driven by, she loves doing Invisalign, she loves doing aesthetic dentistry. I think she'd like to be kind of the premier person in our area doing veneers and things like that.
One question, Don. Do you know what her upper lip length is? And does she have
It's a little bit short.
Yeah, I noticed that. I wonder if that's contributing to it. Just a thought.
Yeah, it is, and we've talked about the lip switch, and she did Botox for a little while. She needed that, made her look weird. They really altered that. So, and you'll see where we ended up. But I still think we've got a tooth proportion size, so if we can bring it up and get her closer to 100% with the link, or 80% with the link ratio, then we can see what the lip does. The other thing I told her is, once she hits 40, in gravity, the smil's gonna be awesome when she's 50. So, well, let's see where we go. There's her biggest smile that she can give. That's where it hangs out most of the time. So rest, E, tip down smile, profile smile. One of the things I noticed right away, that if we do a no prep case on her, these veneers are going to be out here somewhere, right? So as we analyze, these back ones are good, but I'm at least going to have to take a disc to the incisal thirds and bring those in a little bit. And the veneers we're going to be doing are we're going to stay in enamel. They're going to be about 0.3 millimeters. So again, looking at occlusion, good class 1 type relationship here. Keep her square. So she's about 8.3 by 8.6, 103%, and we're thinking about coming up about 1.5 millimeters-ish. That'll leave us 3.5 millimeters for bone, and that gets us to 81.9. So something like this. We also will watch the Cranham. We left it in the first rendition, but then we got the periodontist to take it and see it a little bit later. Held on to that thing as long as she could.
Okay.
So here's our mounting. She also has a little slide between Sarah and MI, so we're going to go ahead and look at that. I showed you this already, but first point of contact is in the bicuspid region. We're going to go ahead and line everything up on the articulator, make sure that that looks good. As we close this down, you can see the first point of contact is in the bicuspid region. She has gone through some orthodontics or Invisalign just to tweak a few things, lower incisors and move a little bit. So you can see she's hitting in those premolars first. decided to do with her is go ahead and do the crown lengthening, or the gingivitis rather, right on the models, do our design of where teeth are going to be, building our corridor out, giving them some edges, pulling those incisal edges in just a little bit. But we left the interferences behind because we're going to take that design and put it on the 82 bases. So that way she can equilibrate herself, we can put it together, and she can see exactly what we're doing. And this is exactly what she needs because she's still at the point where she's not comfortable doing the digital equilibration and going to the mouth. She likes doing it with the analog. It's equilibration down. She can make the decision about whether the equilibration is a good option. So that saves her time. But actually doing this, okay, I just showed you, putting them on the bases, and then marking the first point of contact, and then actually doing the equilibration is something we're going to do in the OI. Okay, what's cool about this is if you've got your anterior designs done, now you're equilibrating your centric relation. Now when you go through excursions, the cuss tips and everything are there to give you the influence of where that will be. Yeah?
Do you use a T-scan in your office? Okay, and I was gonna say, do you find value in the timing data that you get from the T-scan versus, I guess, just arbitrary?
Well, I'll say this. What I find with the T-scan is like, what I don't like about the T-scan is that Kirstein sometimes suggests you don't need to do this in order if you have the T-scan, but the T-scan doesn't tell me how far I need to go. Like, I don't know if it's a good option. All I know is as I get closer to finishing an equilibration, I have a better view of it. So the way I use the key T-scan is I don't do anything different. I still equilibrate until I think I'm done, and then I grab the T-scan, and I have 10 minutes more to do. That's how I use it. So, but I still think you have to do some sort of determination to see if you can equilibrate the case and you can get all your contacts and you can start to see she's coming in pretty nicely.
And can I just ask a personal question? You take all this time to take these immaculate records that written down to the microns or something, and you plan it in the software. Well, how far do you think we are from just trusting what comes out of the software and that you plan with this perfect?
AI stuff, you mean?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it could be your son designing it, but the idea is, why is it that when we plan this perfect occlusion in the computer, you still get to the mouth and you have to make these adjustments?
You get what?
You still have to get to the mouth and make these adjustments. Why is it not perfect in the computer and perfect in the mouth? Like, where is the disconnect? Why do you have to have a T-scan? Why do you have to come back and equilibrate?
Well, I don't think that, you gotta remember, when you're working on models, whether you're working on printed models or stone models, each one of these teeth are rock solid. When you're working in the human environment, there's ligaments. So one of the biggest differences in equilibrating stone models versus equilibrating teeth is a lot of times teeth are loose. And so you might have a tooth that you have to adjust more to it than you think, because as you adjust it, it keeps shifting a little bit. But do I think it's off? No. I think when we take great records, I'm very confident that when we go into the mouth that it's going to be way better than if I didn't have it. Like if I didn't have this going in, and that's why to me going in and putting a T-scan between some of these teeth and start grinding, like I have no idea how much I would have to take off the tooth. And so I would never do that.
So if you do like a full arch restoration, right?
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
When you print them, do you find yourself adjusting those
No.
printed temporaries?
Very little.
I guess that's probably the
Very,
question.
very little.
Okay.
I mean, yes, some, but like, we printed to an MUA Wednesday. And you just think about everything that's on, like we did a design in advance. We had this design, computer's ready, we take the teeth out, put the implants in, put the MUAs in, scan, they line up that data, and we get that printed thing in 5-minute occlusal adjustment. It's like unbelievable how accurate it is. So compared to like temp cylinders, and you can table all the bone, you got temp cylinders and the dentures going like this, it's like, right? You go ahead and cure them and bite. You're just done at the end of the day, that's like what do you call it, the alligator bite?
Yes, alligator bite.
Yeah, so anyway, This is if we were doing the virtual, the trial equilibration, so I've shown you analog, this is digital. So this is closed till the front teeth are touching, and then anything that's sticking through, we're just adjusting it. So this is if we did it digitally. So we're gonna take that data and print a model, and what I would recommend on these type of cases is just go ahead and make a silicone index of your wax up and just do a mock-up. Just put it over her teeth and let her look at it. And remember, this is, you can kind of see her own teeth shining through, like there's no lux attempt there, but this is going over her tissue and covering where this would be. And so we looked at it. She's still a little gummy, maybe a little bit, but she likes it. And she likes that the laterals and canines and bis are in more proportion. It fills in her corridor. So she said, let's do it. So this mock-up, I think, is a really powerful thing to do for people if you're trying to motivate them. So now we're gonna do the case. So as we go through this, the first thing we're gonna do is equilibrate. I like using bilateral manipulation to find center. And just like I showed you, notice we're hitting those inclines, but we're leaving behind marks on cuts, tips, marginal ridges, and central fosses. So we're gonna equilibrate the CR first, get rid of the slide. And I'm just using a finishing diamond to do this. And again, just like we saw in the models, we knew those bicusplates were gonna be first. It's exactly the same amount. So we're gonna equilibrate until the back teeth start, molars start coming in, and then obviously until we start seeing the front teeth contacting. Starting to see my dots all the way around, looking pretty similar to how it looked on the instrument. And now we're gonna start looking at just tweaking. And so I like to start with a finishing diamond and then going to these carbide finishing burrs that will polish, make things nice and smooth. We dial that in. And then we can start working on excursions, making sure the lines are where they're supposed to be, and working on any line on the back that's in the way, but it'll start looking pretty good. All right? A little bit of a work interference on the thigh, so clearing that out. Look at the equilibration. We'll go back to this once the temps are on as well. Just getting the big interference out of the way. Then we're gonna do the gingivectomy. So sounding the bone, you can see she's about 5 millimeters. And I'll make a little suck down, as you'll see in a minute, that comes from the diagnostic design, so I'll know how high to go. But this is just using our little water lays. And I like it. I mean, we can do osseous with this too, but it's great with soft tissue. And really takes the tissue nicely, and it's not bleedy or just kind of, I don't know where the tissue goes. I guess it just kind of evaporates it. But we'll bring that up. Nice and symmetrical. Liking the change in the shape of the tooth already. And she talked the whole time. That's starting to look pretty good. And then I pack cord. So one of the things on a no prep case that I like to do is I like to pack the cord and I leave it. But because there's not a margin there, I like them to take my margin to the cord. So it's the way I communicate to them how high I want this to go. Because if you pull this, they'll put the porcelain too far in there. So I put the cord in and it's giving me the apical aspect of where I want my veneers to be. And now we'll do the prep. So I don't have this whole thing, but the first thing I did is took that disc and just rolled those incisal third in. I'm opening up the braziers. I'm making a very definitive margin on the lingual incisal edge to get everything kind of smooth. Opening up my incisal braziers a little bit. I'll take a finishing carbide and narrow the neck slightly. Because again, if you don't narrow the necks, the veneers can start getting a little bulky. So very minimal prep here. And then we have the 3-plane facial reduction guide that guides us from our diagnostic wax up, make sure that we look like we've got good room. That's the incisal third, then we'll cut it into the middle Scan. And then we're gonna do our temps. So pull the cord, put a couple dots of some hydrogen, gas, or the hydrogen. Phosphoric acid. I didn't know what it is. Hydrochloric acid.
The chloroform.
Yeah. That's right. All right, so we'll rinse that, do a little bonding resin. And then just fill it with lots of temp. Let that stay about 5 minutes. And when we pull it, we'll have transferred what she's already had out of her teeth and her mouth. And this is the key, when you're finishing these things, we use the ET9 burrs, they're Ronnie Goldstein's finishing burrs, but they have a 6 and 12 and 30 bladed burr. Use the 30 bladed burr, a brand new one. And what it'll do is just melt the material without nicking your teeth up. So we just kind of go in there and just clean everything up. Again, if you're autoclaving these, they get the 30 bladed gets mucked up pretty quick. So just use a brand new one for this and throw it away when you're done. And then we'll come in, speeding this up a little bit now. This is an ET3, which is basically a little smaller, but also 30 bladed. Just making sure everything's smooth and cleanable. And then we'll come in with polishers, smoothen the margins. Another polisher, these are the Ivoclar. And then I've got these little, I call them Christmas trees, but they're aluminum oxide impregnated. Get real smooth. And the very last thing we do is OptiBond glaze, OptiGlaze. So put that on kind of thick and then cure it, and it really does a nice job, gives you kind of a porcelain kind of look. And then cure the heck out of it. Give it about 20 seconds or two. You see how shiny that is. And then we should see, a little tweaking of the occlusion, but everything that we saw on our articulator in terms of exclusion is what we're seeing in the mouth. All right, so now we're looking at provisionals. We let her have a couple days. We're starting to see that 1.5 millimeters. Zoe's probably going to have a little bit of this unless she does something to her lip. She's fine. That's about as big a smile as she could give me. But she's liking it. She said, let's go ahead. So now what I'm going to do is I've got everything there, right? I've got the occlusion, I got my edges. Talk about this area in a little bit, but I'm going to scan that, take a full series, another 21 pictures of her provisionals, and I'm going to send this to the lab. The lab we're using for these minimal prep veneers is CMR. They're out in Idaho, and Aaron Johnson is an AC accredited technician. He's really good. And what I love about how he communicates with me is he'll take all my data and spend some time just analyzing it in the PowerPoint before we ever have a team do a meeting. So usually before the meeting, he's kind of sent me some things and says, hey man, I think the difference between this and this, if we bring this one down and maybe the distal back down, we can close that gap just a little bit. And so this is to me one of the real big powers of how we communicate. I get a little design summary of the things that he's going to do, but essentially there's my provisional and there's his design, so I can compare one to the other, interface. Basically blue is my temp, the white is what he's going to do, and you can see the subtle change. Now, this is the thing that I love about this workflow using build restorations, is previously we did a lot of these veneers telepathic. And with feldspathic, like we could have these conversations, but in the end, the technician's just stacking porcelain onto a model and trying to have this level of discussion is very, very difficult. And plus I can't see anything he's doing until they show up in my office. But we're having this conversation now, and then once we're happy with where this is aesthetically and occlusally, then what he does is he takes that design and he mills them out of the neck. So notice where he's screwing them, so he screws them to the cervical, and then where the reason these are expensive, and he sits there and grinds them. That cervical he brings down to about 0.2 millimeters, so that's, imagine the stress of that. But there they are on the natural dye, so we'll give it the shade of the actual tube underneath. And so it cuts back a little bit, so he does layer these. It's fairly low functional risk, but that's them floating in the water. So, milled Emax din, to me, from a fit standpoint, is superior than Pelt's Pathé. Way superior. But the negative was you always had to be thick. So if the technician will spend the time thinning it, it can have the same effect. There they are on the models. There they are on the natural dyes. I love the little, edge stuff that he's got. She had a lot of that in her teeth. And there they are, 3 out of 10. She lives at the oceanfront, so they gotta be a little light. I love this. So remember I talked about tucking in that incisal third. Watch how the centrals come back while the laterals, canines, and thighs come out. That's following that intermain border. That's the importance of that. Both for that. And I just love, look at this little stuff that's going on here.
A little battle over the details there. He's almost got the pairs of on.
Guidance. Watching extrusion. Guidance on the canines. So it's starting to bleach the lowers. But right now, making sure we got the extrusion. And making sure she can comfortably pass that canine. I think this is important here, because I don't know if you noticed, she had chipped that lateral and she had crossover interference on the natural teeth, so that little protection of the laterals was important. So she went from here, to the temps, to the finals, progressively moving towards optimal processing. So there's a lot of things that we're doing here to get here, but notice once we get here, it's a new analysis. So that's where the lab communication can go to another level. So that picture we took in our office, and I'm happy with that post-op. She likes it, but I was secretly looking for another place where I could get like her real smile. And so we had a place in Smith Mountain Lake, and she's a beast. This is our new toy, this is so fun. E-foil, she likes to surf. But I found her coming out of the boat with some fireball. And so that is a lake-induced poster. So it's pretty funny. Her friends gave her this. They call her Dr. K. So it's Dr. K with UN. All right, so we are 11:56. Let's do lunch. And let's try to like 45 minutes or whatever you guys want, and then we can keep on rolling and get you out here on the road. All right.
Really?
Yeah.
Different parts of it. It's not really hard, but it would be vicious.
Yeah.
This would be,
Yeah,
this would be,
it's like a video.
yeah.
No, other way. It's kind of, it's like.
Between thousand dollars.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other side of 22.
I got you.
They do, for sure.
Little video. Place where see the mountains northwest, you know, just bring
It is, somewhere close by.
It's not even springs.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, there's so much.
Oh, yeah. Just go to National Designs.
We're in Kansas.
You know,
I used to have accident. What is that? Wire road. Yeah. Wire road. Wire road. Oh, yeah, turkey farm back then. What's up, man? It's not good. Or right. That's before I went. I went out. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, it's 2:10. I walked for those old days. Yeah, I came from Charleston, this morning, and it's always.
well, no, but it happened in Salvation.
Headed south today.
Well, look, they were messing around on the right side. I don't know, the left side, you know that area right there where Sandy Springs is and all that? Yeah.